Hey everyone, I'm so glad you're still watching AVGN after 15 years. I'm so glad to have people with a good sense of humor to appreciate this stuff, and I hope to keep the entertainment coming. Hey, guess what? I just realized I recorded this entire video and realized this mic is not plugged in. The shotgun mic is plugged in. So, hey, at least you can still hear me, right? Back to the video. It's been a long time since I've done any kind of behind the scenes thing. The last time I did a room tour was in 2016, I think. Not a whole lot has changed since, but I want to share with you a few of my technical updates, the basic setup of a nerd episode. I'll talk about some of the projects that you don't see, the ones that are all about maintenance, and I'll even address a few complaints of the asshole-ish variety, which does not represent the majority of you. But yeah, that'll be fun. Also, check in real soon for the Cinemassacre podcast. It gives me the chance to talk a lot more and answer some fan questions. So, nerd episodes come in all shapes and forms. Some are basic and simple, while others are epic and crazy, like the recent Vegas episode. That was the biggest passion project of the year so far and took several months to make. But no matter what kind of episode it is, it always starts with the gameplay. I have a new HDMI switcher. Now, of course, most of these old game consoles do not have HDMI, so I have this analog to digital adapter here. Also for NES, I've mostly been using the AVS console, which is basically an NES with an HDMI output. I also use the Super NT, which has HDMI too. Yes, this all loses a little bit of the nostalgic factor, but I still have the old consoles. Also, I still have the Nintoaster and even had a fan add an HDMI output. Thank you very much. For playing the games, I use EverDrives whenever possible, which means I can load almost any game on it without having to find it on my shelf and clean it out. I still have the physical games and show them in the videos, but when I record these days, I often use the EverDrives only for a matter of convenience and image quality. Now, I've had all kinds of problems with game capture and have tried many different devices and many different methods over the years. In the past, I've used a DVD recorder. I recorded straight onto a PC laptop, which Mike helped me out with. But lots of times, I would play a game for hours and then realize nothing recorded. Or the video was fine, but the sound was glitchy. Or the video stuttered or froze completely. So Screenwave hooked me up. They got me a new PC, and it's working awesome. It even has colored lights and shit. Strangely, this desk is from the 80s. I've had it since I was a kid. And back then, they didn't consider that computer wires would ever have to go under here. So the entire bottom is boxed in. So for the first time ever, I had to drill a hole in it, which was surprisingly difficult. This was some really tough 80s wood. I'm much more familiar with Mac, so I don't really use the PC for anything except game capture. Now, still, I do have problems with the connections. Sometimes I'll switch on a console and it just doesn't show up. So I have to unplug wires, plug them in again, switch inputs back and forth until it refreshes. So lots of my work hours in general is spent fixing things that go wrong. And these are just a few examples off the top of my head. Earlier this year, I had a hard drive issue. For the past few years, I've used a server with 24 hard drives in it that stores all my past videos and project files. That's in case I ever need to go back and grab a clip from something or whatever. I'm obsessive about organizing. I have a folder for finished videos and a folder for project files, raw footage, graphics, everything else. Inside these folders are AVGN, BJ, which is Board James, Monster Madness, and everything else. Folder within folder within folder. It's all stored on one big volume, so I don't have to switch out and unplug different hard drives to find shit. Well, earlier this year, the server stopped working. It just wouldn't stay mounted. So for the next few weeks, I was using my backup drives and copying everything onto bigger drives. I could never fully explain how time-consuming and mentally exhausting this was. I had to draw plans of where I was going to copy everything to. You can see here how long it was taking to copy lots of this stuff. I probably have like 80 terabytes of crap when you add it all up. I'm not even sure, to be honest. When just one folder says it's going to take 7 days, you know you're in for a long haul. To make things more complicated, earlier this year, around the same time, I got a new Mac. My current Mac was from 2014, and in the world of computers and video editing, that's pretty old. So I was having lots of problems with Adobe Premiere. I still do, which is what I use to edit. I don't use Final Cut anymore because Apple hasn't updated that since since the iPhone probably. There's Final Cut X, but that's like a totally different thing. So anyway, I got a new Mac, new version of Premiere, everything's all updated. But it was like a month of installing programs, reorganizing my data, and after all was said and done, my old server suddenly works again. It turned out it was just a bad Thunderbolt wire, an 18-foot wire that cost $215. It's that long because the server's loud and I like putting it in a different room than I edit in. But hey, now all my stuff is super backed up. But still, there's a problem. The old server doesn't work with the new Mac, so ScreenWave set me up with a whole new server. So yes, that meant copying everything again, but at least it was all onto one big volume and easier to organize than if it were on a bunch of separate drives. So it's been great, but the server is so loud, I had to spend a few days putting up insulation, drywall, and foam to muffle the noise. And even though we're almost there solving my data issues, we're still working on it. There's still some outstanding issues. I know I'm rambling a lot here. I don't know how interesting this is, but I figured, hey, why not just tell you some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. ScreenWave also helped me with my internet because my internet was real shitty. Imagine trying to do what I do with the internet going down all the time. So it was a big project. They ran Ethernet cables all through my house and everything, and it's working awesome now, but there's still some tricky areas that we're working on. So that's another project that is in the works. Now let's get back into the nerd room and talk about my camera setup. So I got sick of having tripod legs in the way of my consoles, so I like having the camera on this makeshift small tripod I made. Basically, it's just a tripod head screwed onto a piece of wood, because otherwise the floor is a cluttered mess of tripod legs. There's the camera tripod, the microphone stand, the light stands. I'm stepping over shit all the time, so eliminating tripods makes my day efficient. I still use a tripod whenever I have to, but for the main setup, like this, I got it down to a science. So what's all this crap? Well, this is the teleprompter. I use it for the longer speeches, especially for the movie reviews. That way I can look directly at the camera while reading the script for the entire duration of the video. I still mess up and flub some lines, but it cuts down on trying to remember and rehearse. When I'm speaking on camera the whole time, I have the flexibility of being able to select which parts I want to show myself or cut to other images. Typically, when I don't have any images to show for what I'm talking about, I'll just show myself. Generic. For the nerd videos, I usually read the voiceover or narration right off the script, but the on-camera parts, I use a teleprompter for the long speeches, and otherwise I just rehearse or even ad-lib sometimes. Here's how it works. I play the script off the laptop. I adjust the speed of the text scroll with a mouse and keyboard. But it's a little tricky because I also like to show my hands for expression, The laptop is connected to an external monitor with the screen reversed because it reflects onto a mirror, which is a one-way glass. So the camera lens is actually seeing through the script, which is kind of weird when you think about it. So this way I can read while looking directly at the camera. Once the teleprompter's set up, it's not something you want to take apart again because it's time-consuming. First, I have to unscrew and change the tripod mount on the bottom of the camera. Then I have to plug in the monitor, adjust the angle of the mirror, focus the lens, etc. Let's talk about the microphone. Whenever I'm doing just plain voiceover, I use this mic right here. I record into a Tascam recorder because there's no point of shooting video when you're only using the audio. Whenever I'm on screen for a movie review or something like this, I'll just plug the mic directly into the camera. But if it's a nerd video, I use a shotgun mic that's dangling from the ceiling. I like to have it up there because, once again, I don't like having a stand in the way. I've had some problems with this mic. Every now and then I get a weird buzzing sound that we have to remove when editing, using filters. And I've tried different mics and we haven't quite got to the bottom of it. Screenwave and I have been working to resolve it. It tends to happen when the mic gets a little loose, which is why I avoid touching it whenever possible. Once it's up there, it usually stays up there. The wires run all across the ceiling and into the camera. So that's a lot of stuff I prefer not to move. Now let's talk about the lights. What is this? Some kind of anti-gravity experiment? It's a pretty funny way to get the tripod off the floor, but it does the trick. The lights are LED. They don't get hot, which is nice. They can dim and change color temperature too. But even at their dimmest settings, they're a little too bright, which is why I put wax paper over them. I have several lights all over the side of the room because I want to get the most even lighting possible. I can't bring them too close because you get reflection in my glasses. I found spacing them apart works better. Also, little trick, I have a pair of glasses with no lenses in them. That helps with the glare, but that only works when I don't have to read. Also, my camera, lights, and everything are plugged into 2 power strips. So when I come into the room and go to work, all I gotta do is flick 1, 2, and everything comes on. I'm set to go. The purpose of all this is to shoot episodes as quickly as possible. Now, sometimes that can't be done. For example, the Vegas episode was a lot of extra work, and there's always going to be something like that. But for a basic episode, this simple setup greatly improves my workflow. Otherwise, I would have to set up the camera, frame the shot, set the focus, set up the lights, set up the microphone, and check and adjust everything. By having it all set up beforehand, it saves me a lot of time. Now, the only little problem is that I'm locked into this position. Whenever I need a different angle of the room, let's say if the nerd is over at the NES shelf or something, that means everything has to move. The microphone, I have to take this wire down, and then the lights, you can imagine how much of a pain these are. The camera has to go on a tripod, so that means the teleprompter needs to be disassembled. The wire that plugs into the power has to come out. Then I usually have to switch to battery, and then, oh shit, I forgot to charge it. Anywhere I want to look, there's so much crap to move out of the way, and that's all very time consuming. And that's nothing unusual. It's very common on a movie set that most of the time is spent setting up shots, and very little of the time is spent actually filming. But when I'm short on time and trying to be as quick, as convenient, and efficient as possible, I just stick to the couch shot. I'll set up a different angle when there's a good reason and if it's worth the price of time. I even bring in a second camera for some of the B-roll and close-up shots. But if the nerd is in the shot and has to be lit and mic'd, everything has to move. In a perfect world, I could take as long as possible, but lately we've been doing 2 episodes a month with contracted brand deals and deadlines, not to mention all the other videos I'm working on. So when I'm behind schedule and in a rush, I have to stick to this single one-shot setup, or else the video won't get finished in time. Some people have felt the need to point out whenever there's a basic episode that's lacking the multiple camera angles. As if I'm not aware, I'm a guy who makes movies. I like different camera angles. If I had the choice, every episode would be as dynamic and cinematic as possible. In recent years, we've had some pretty interesting camera angles, like the underwater shot in Echo the Dolphin and the one continuous take in The Immortal. It can't be overlooked that we just put out the Vegas episode not too long ago. That was a monster and a miracle we pulled it off in a pandemic. It must have been over 100 hours. I just remember spending so much time writing the script and sneaking in every Hunter S. Thompson quote possible. And then it was tons of green screen, filming myself and Tony separate. And then I sent a rough edit to Screenwave and they just did the rest of the post-production and effects. Shout out to Yoshi Vu. That episode was a giant project and put us behind schedule. The point is, I'm always going to want to do a big episode like that. And that's why we need these basic ones to get caught up again. Remember the Crazy Castle episode? That was epic. What came next? Super Pitfall. You need to balance it out. So you'll definitely see another crazy one when we get there again. Since the beginning, every episode is a product of circumstance. In 2006, there was a bunch of real basic episodes that we might be forgetting about, like McKids, Wally Bear and Double Dragon 3. Those ones were so basic, they would hardly even be accepted as full episodes by the current standards I've set. Worth a reminder that I'm not only doing AVGN, I'm doing Monster Madness and tons of other videos. And a small fraction of my work hours are actually spent making videos. More of it is maintenance, business stuff, personal errands, anything random that comes up that you'd never see or know about. And sometimes personal is, well, it's what it is. It's personal. In the old days, I'm talking way back, I would sometimes have to spend up to 18 hours a day to get some of these bigger episodes done. That is no longer possible for me. As a natural fact of life, I have less time now than I did when I was in my 20s making these videos. Some people have asked me, why are you so busy? Most of the people who I've heard from are very nice and they mean well, but there's some who are just mystified or just can't fathom, like, why don't you have time anymore? Take a wild guess. What's the biggest thing that's different now? I have kids. I don't think I need to explain that. For anyone who doesn't understand what a big responsibility and time commitment that is, then ask someone who is a parent and they will tell you all about it. The kids are awesome, by the way. They're doing really great. Big thanks to my wife for helping keep this whole thing going. You want to talk about behind the scenes commitment? That's what that is. I must stress, I do not want to burn myself out working on these epic kind of videos all around the clock. I want to be there for the kids. That's my choice to balance my work and family life. Then COVID came along and made it harder to film with an in-person crew. If anyone wants to know why it's harder to film alone, here's one example from the Shrek episode. I had to tie myself in a chair with an onion in my mouth. That would be a really funny thing to walk in on, wouldn't it? I'm going to try to tie myself all in one shot with the camera running and burning all this film, man. Oh, that reminds me, that's another thing I have to do is find a remote control for the GH5. I heard there's an app or something, so I need to look into that. But every day it's this long list of just things to look into or things to resolve. But that damn onion would not stay in my mouth. And anytime it would fall, well, I had to untie myself and start all over. Jesus Christ. Fuck! There goes the onion. Fucking shit! Have to start over. Boy, I wish I had a crew. Wish we didn't have COVID and all this fucking bullshit. God damn it. All right. Fucking thing rolls, falls. I'm trying to keep this laptop out of the frame. Since then, we've all been vaccinated and can be in person again finally. But we're now in catch-up mode, not just with videos, but with personal life. Most people, I think, get that, but some don't and underestimate the toll that COVID had. Everyone was affected differently. You have to respect that. Some people had more time, some people had less time. Some people might have been the same. Some people might have been out in the world more. Others might have been locked down at home. Some people haven't seen their families till now. All different situations for different people. So to the people who don't get that, it's worth reminding, we just survived through a pandemic. So if there's any time to cut us a little slack, it would be now. So when you have a project to do, but you don't have enough time, what do? You get help. While most of the fans watching are really awesome and already get it, there's some people who are trying to be counterproductive to the whole thing by saying they don't like Screenwave or they don't like them being involved in the videos or whatever it is. Do these people not want me to have any help? Do they want me to suffer and do everything myself? They probably just haven't logically thought it through. Screenwave helps me make the videos. Without them, if I was doing it all by myself, you'd probably see only 3 videos a year. Would you want that? And it wouldn't matter if I worked with somebody different. Over the years, people have given me shit for working with Screw Attack, game trailers. It doesn't matter. I think there seems to be a misconception that I don't do anything. I have no involvement and they do all the work. That is not true. I am working on AVGN and a ton of different videos. They help me. They collaborate on the scripts, but I still write too and have the final word on everything. I'm still the performer. I oversee the editing. I request changes. I'm still there. The kind of help they offer is unique because they're on the inside circle with me and have an up-close understanding of how everything works with my type of production. So hating on them for the work they do is not fair to them, and it's not fair to me. The other comment that I get every now and then is that I should quit AVGN. Sometimes it's from fans who mean well. They can tell I'm getting burned out or whatever. But hey, look, this is fun. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. And most importantly, this is my day job. This is how I pay my bills and support my kids. You want me to quit? I'd rather be doing this job than something boring. I'm lucky. And I know that most of the people who say that are nice and kind, and they just mean, hey, you don't have to keep doing this. You're allowed to quit if you want. And I appreciate that. But what I'd also like to hear is, hey, you're allowed to do a basic episode or do them less often rather than going to the most extreme to quit. Maybe someday the time will come, but not now. And if and whenever it does, I'll let you know. And hey, don't you want me to make it to episode 200? I'm almost there. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this rambling behind the scenes talk. It's probably the only one of these you're going to get this year, so I figured I might as well just give you the whole dump. And for more stuff, I have a whole book written, which I hope comes out this year or maybe next year. We'll see. But the book is coming. Anyway, I got to get back to making videos now. It's tough to make a video about not having much time when you don't have much time. And for a guy who plays an angry character, I have nothing but peace and love to send to you. So, peace sign, fist bump, elbow bump, shoulder bump, whatever the cool kids are doing these days.